Welcome to Gotta Run. This is Will Sanchez. My special guest today is Michael Rodgers. He is a vice president at New York Roadrunners for development and philanthropy. I met Michael a few years ago at the Streakers Convention for New York Roadrunners. At the time, I was representing the family of Joy Johnson. Roadrunners was to honor her that day with a special bib. Michael was the MC.
We have one other special presentation that we want to do, and I'm going to ask Lance to come up with me. Joy Johnson was a member of this group, and Joy had 25 New York City marathons under her belt. So you can see her, that's at the finish. So I just want to introduce Lance for a moment, and Lance is going to say a few words.
Wow, what a delivery. I soon learned that Michael is the go-to guy when you want an excellent MC at any event at New York Roadrunners. I'm honored to have Michael as a guest. Michael, welcome.
Thanks for having me all.
Michael, before we get started on your great activities at Roadrunners, let's introduce you to our audience. Tell us where you were born, something about your growing up years.
Great. Well, again, thanks for having me. I'm a lifelong runner. Running is definitely my passion, so you got to run, and it's a fun opportunity to be here today. So I was born and raised in Pennsylvania, outside of Pottstown, Pennsylvania. For those of you who are familiar with the state, it's about 40 minutes northwest of Philadelphia, not far from King of Prussia. Many people know the shopping mall there. But so I grew up in a rural area, a suburban community, with a cow pasture across the street, and you can see a nuclear power plant out the other window of the house. So
really?
Just in the middle of nowhere, for some people would say, but enjoyed running. I started running when I was 11 years old, and it was definitely something that changed my life. As a young boy in elementary school, I struggled in school. I had special ed classes. I had to go. I was always 1 or 2 grades behind in reading, but kept studying. And it was about the age of 11, I started to run indoor track. And my mom was like, "That's great. You could run, but if you want to run, you have to get good grades." And so I kind of threw myself into the books and studied, and I wanted to run. So I kept doing my homework, kept applying myself in school. By the time I was a senior in high school, I had gone from the kid in the elementary school who needed special ed help to having all honors classes except for one. I was the first kid in my family to go on to college and graduate from college. I went on an academic scholarship, not a running scholarship actually, but
academic, excellent.
And I attribute that to running, because I wanted to run, and that's why I threw myself into the books, and that's why I run.
Which college did you go to?
So I did my undergraduate at Elon in North Carolina. I actually walked onto the cross-country team my first year and ran. I only ran my first year at college. For me, running, and even now when I run, is a very social activity. In high school and middle school, I did well as a state finalist in the 800 meters, my senior year in high school. But it was running with friends. I had the same group of guys that I would train with all throughout middle school and high school. And when I got to college, I love competition, but it was a little more competitive than I was used to. So I only ran my first year at school.
Excellent. You went on to graduate school, you said?
I did. I went to graduate school in Europe. I went to the University of Liège, studied international relations and European policy. And while I was still running recreationally, I actually rode on a crew team during grad school.
Oh, really? So your arms must be pretty strong.
Well, actually, it's funny. Many people go to the arms when you think about rowing, but believe it or not, my background in running actually really helped. Because with rowing, you're actually pushing a lot with your legs. So obviously, you have to have some upper body strength with the oars, but you really are pushing a lot with your legs. So having many years of running as a background really helped me with rowing as well.
What attracted you to that?
Growing up outside of Philadelphia, if anyone is familiar, when you go down by the Art Museum in Philadelphia, you have Boathouse Row, and you see all the boathouses and the water there in the Schuylkill River. And so we would go into the city, and I wanted to row. But where I grew up, we didn't have a river. I mean, we had the Schuylkill River up by us, but it wasn't where you could row in it. So when I got to graduate school, there was a river, La Meuse was there, and I was very
In Europe?
keen. And voilà.
Interesting. Now, did you learn swimming at the same time you were rowing, or?
No, swimming I actually learned in middle school. In my school, we were fortunate enough to have a pool. And I played lots of sports, not just running. In high school, we didn't have an indoor track program. And so our coach had all of us swim. So I was on the swimming and diving team for 3 years and high school as well.
Wow, that is very fortunate. It's very tough to, especially in New York City, but maybe it's different in Philadelphia, to find a swimming teams.
Yeah.
As a fact, most people in New York City don't know how to swim. It's one of those challenges to get more of our kids to learn lifelong skill.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, even you look at statistics, African-American boys are have a very high rate of drowning just because they don't learn to swim in general. So I'm very fortunate that, where I grew up, we had a pool at the school and I learned to swim.
Yep, I know there's lots of programs to try to get everybody, especially the African-American community, to get into the pool. Okay, so you're in Europe. Now, were you learning a foreign language too?
Well, I speak a couple different languages. I actually speak French and English fluently, and I learned French growing up. Again, it was one of those things like running, when you put your mind to it and you're determined, you practice and you practice and you practice. I worked in a French restaurant for a while, and so I was a busboy, then a waiter, and I would address the table first in French, and then if they didn't respond, I'd switch to English. But it was always a fun way to practice. Even growing up, I would speak in French to my mother, and people would look at her and say, "Do you understand what he's saying?" She's like, "No, if he wants something, he'll re-say it in English eventually." So when I went to graduate school, my degree was actually completed in French.
Oh, wow, that is great. Now, obviously, you made it back to the United States, and you entered the triathlon world at some point. So tell us a story about that.
Well, triathlon came into my life, if you will, I'd say in 2010. So lifelong runner. I'll even go back before that, because I used to think people who ran marathons were a little crazy. But my first half marathon was run in 2001. I was visiting a friend in Minnesota, and we went to watch a race, and I ended up running the half that year at Grandma's.
Grandma's, that's a famous.
So the half was there, and so I ran the half untrained and just kind of went out and was running and ran a 1:41, and I was like, okay, that was kind of fun.
Oh,
and
wow, it's a good time for a first time untrained.
Exactly. So I was like, I should keep doing this. So I ran a couple other halves and still thought that marathon was a little crazy.
Okay.
I moved to New York City in 2003, and it was Marathon Sunday, and I didn't know it actually. I had a friend visiting from graduate school. We were headed up to the cloisters with a picnic lunch. Lo and behold, we see all these people in the subway, and we're like, what is that? What is everyone going to? And they're like, it's Marathon Sunday. So we ended up in the park, mile 24, behind the museum. Didn't know anyone running the race, but we cheered for 2.5, 3 hours and just kept cheering. And for me, I was like, okay, I have to do this now. No longer these people crazies. I want to be one of them. And so that was in 2003, and I ran my first marathon in 2004.
Was it New York?
It was not New York. I couldn't get in. So I have had that painful feeling of applying and not getting in, applying and not getting in.
Oh, to the lottery.
The drawing, yes. And so on my third attempt, I did get into the New York City race, and I ran, my first New York was in 2006. It was a tough race.
Was it a hot day?
It was a beautiful day. I was running with the PD, the police department, and so I had a nice start, and I started, because each year we have the Mayor's Cup, where the police officers and the firefighters kind of race, and so I was there at the front, right behind the elite athletes. I actually ran the first 16 miles of that race with Lance Armstrong. That was the year he ran, the first year he ran. I shouldn't have done that.
Oh my God, he just did under 3. He was struggling at the end.
Correct. I was struggling coming over the Queensboro Bridge. So I know what that feels like at mile 16, but I ended up running, I think it was like a 3:29 that year. So
That's not too bad, and you got to run with Lance for 16 miles or so.
that was my first New York. I've done 4 New Yorks in total, and open marathons, I've done 15 of them. So I've gone from thinking that's crazy to doing a lot of them. But then the ultimate question, as you had initially asked, came about triathlon. So I was doing all these marathons, and I just kind of decided I need to do something different. I turned 35 in 2010, and I decided that I was going to run 35 races in a year. Part of what I love to do is just giving back to the community, and, raising money for charities. And so in 2010, I raised money for St. Mary's Healthcare System for Children. Throughout the course of the year, I did 35 races, ranging from a mile to a half Ironman. And that was my first year that I did triathlon. So I needed something different, and that's how I got into triathlon.
And you already knew how to cycle?
I did not. I mean, I rode a bike as a kid, but I had to learn how to cycle. I bought an entry-level time trial bike and started riding. I did my first triathlon was a sprint, and then my second one was a half Ironman.
Really? You went from a sprint to a half Ironman. Okay. Were you training with a club?
I didn't. That first year of doing triathlon, I kind of self-trained. I just would go out on bike rides by myself, some teammates. I run on the New York Carriers, the running team here in the city. And so there's some teammates of mine who were triathletes as well, and they kind of drug me along kicking and screaming in the beginning, and then I got bit by the triathlon bug.
Oh, excellent. And that was 2010?
That was in 2010.
Because you want to do 35 races, man, you got to mix it up. Might as well put in a cycling in there too.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Exactly.
And your first half Ironman was where?
First half Ironman was in Westchester. I did Toughman. So it was a September race. It was a great race. Great first time experience.
I love that, Toughman.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So it sounds like you moved up to an Ironman at some point.
I did. In 2011 was my first Ironman. I did a couple more halves just to prepare. And then I did Louisville, Ironman Louisville in August of 2011. Then subsequently, each of the past couple of years, I've done an Ironman. So I've now done Ironman.
Were you able to do the one and only New York Ironman?
I did not. I was here. I was at the midnight finish. Midnight finish of an Ironman is an amazing experience. If you've not had that opportunity, it's one not to miss. But I raced the following week up in Ironman Mont Tremblant in Canada. So I was at the race, but I didn't race myself.
Oh yeah, I was a marshal for that day, so I was near at the end. It was a marvelous day. It's too bad it was just too expensive to do it again. Once in a lifetime opportunity.
Exactly.
But now at some point you joined New York Roadrunners. So what was the transition for that?
I was at an event and met Mary Wittenberg, and we were talking, and she said, you know, we're looking for a vice president for development. And I was like, that'd be great. So I mixed my professional career of raising money for nonprofits and development work with my passion of running.
So what is development? What kind of work is that?
So at New York Roadrunners, our mission is to help and inspire people through running. And we do that in a variety of different ways, whether it be, you know, the marathon. As I told my personal story, I was inspired to run a marathon after watching the race here. So we put on the TCS New York City Marathon each year. As many of the local runners know, we obviously have a great running community here, and New York Roadrunners is proud to help support that running community with the weekly races that we put on, our 5-borough series races throughout the year as well. And then, most importantly, from where I sit, and what gets me most excited is our youth and community services. At New York Roadrunners, we serve over 200,000 kids a year with free running programs. Over half of those kids are here in New York City. We also have a wide variety of community-based programs, whether it's for seniors, our Strider program. We have Open Run, we have race-free programs. So we have a wide variety of community-based programs as well. So part of what I do at New York Roadrunners is we help raise the funds to support our youth and community efforts, whether it be through individual donors, people who run with Team for Kids, which is our in-house charity that helps support our youth programs.
Since you're a runner, I have a suspicion you probably will see you coaching with Team for Kids.
Team for Kids is a charity run by New York Roadrunners, which is the organization that sponsors races in around New York City. They fundraise for their youth running programs, which have free running programs all across the city and all across the country.
Our youth running programs are designed to get kids active and have fun.
There's around 200,000 runners running millions of miles every year across 700 schools.
I help coach, and more importantly, I just love to be out there with the runners. Oftentimes, whether it's with Team for Kids or just the general, running community here in the city, if I'm not running a race, if I'm not working a race, sometimes you'll see me running opposite to the race course, just cheering people on.
Yeah, that's important.
I think what sets New York Roadrunners apart from other programs out there, especially in New York City, is the opportunity that they give students to run, to exercise, to set goals.
And as they achieve those little goals, they begin to become confident, not just on the athletic arena, but in the classroom too. And that's what makes this program special.
I hope that the values that my students come out with when they are done with this program is the ability to set goals and to follow through. A lot of them come in thinking that they can't do something, but then when you build them up to believe in themselves and to actually do and exceed their expectations, that to me is fascinating, and I think that will carry over into life and academics.
The money that we raise goes to support our free youth programming, whether it be Mighty Milers, Young Runners, developmental track and field program, whatever the program that we put on at New York Roadrunners, they're all funded through.
It's a great program. In fact, I had one of your ambassadors sitting there. I think it was Miles Bernstein.
Yes, he's great.
He was fantastic spokesperson, ambassador for your organization.
Miles is a great guy. I've met him a couple times, and he even wears a bow tie every now and then.
You think your influence is
No.
his
The first time I
style?
met him, he had it on, so.
Okay, well, he may have seen you.
That's possible.
Okay.
Mighty Milers is our largest program. Mighty Milers is a program where kids run half a mile to a mile a couple times a week, and they add up those miles, and they'll receive incentives. What the incentives could be a membership card, it could be a patch, it could be a medal once they hit 26.2 miles. We have over 500 sites here in New York City that use this program. But to your point, we have sites all over the country, another 400 plus sites. So we are over 1,000 schools and community centers throughout the entire United States of people who are using Mighty Milers and benefiting from this program. And we send out hundreds of thousands of incentives every year.
It is a great program. Well, Michael, you mentioned that your runner was the New York Harriers. So how did the Harriers discover you?
That's actually a fun story. And it's, in full disclosure, just being a guy. And I have a teammate who lives in Brooklyn Heights, and I used to live in Brooklyn Heights, and I was doing a hill workout on the Brooklyn Bridge. Obviously, bridges are hills, and it's a great place to go and do a nice little hill workout. So I was coming from the Manhattan side back to Brooklyn. I'd done my hill repeats, and there's a guy who was, coming. He was finishing his run. He was running ahead, and I decided I'm going to catch him. And I let him get a little bit of ways up the hill, and then I took off to do my hill repeat. Well, he wasn't going to let me pass him. And so it was all nonverbal, just two guys, the testosterone started flowing.
Mano a mano.
We started racing up the hill, and then we got to the top of the bridge, and we didn't stop. So we kept going, and we ran all the way into the neighborhood, and he was like, "Do you run on a team?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, well, "You should come run with the New York Harriers." And so that was probably about 2007, 2008. And then after that, I was at a fundraiser, met another guy, and he's like, "Do you run on a team?" And I said, "No." And he's like, "You need to come run on the New York Harriers." And I was like, "Okay, this is the second time this keeps coming up."
My God, there's an omen here.
So I was told that, if you want to break 3 hours, I was close, come train with the team. We do regular, consistent workouts, speed workout, tempo workouts, long runs. We'll get you under 3 hours. And I joined the team officially in 2009 and went under 3 hours in 2010.
Excellent, excellent. So you must know Karla Bruning.
Absolutely.
She's New York Harriers too.
She is.
She sings.
She sings well, and she's a great announcer. You had mentioned announcer and MC. Karla is great.
Yeah, I had her here, and at the time she does the Roadrunners TV show On the Run or something like that.
She's done On the Run with us, and she also announces a lot of the races as well.
You guys on TV everywhere. There's another part of your title, Philanthropy. Now, is that related to, for example, there are a lot of charity organizations that want to run at Roadrunners. Is that related with the work you're doing there?
Absolutely. So one of the other areas that the team I work with, we help oversee the official charity program. And so we have, in the TCS New York City Marathon this year, we'll have over 345 different charities that will be part of the program, who these charities will recruit runners to raise money to support their
particular
charities.
cause. Yep,
Exactly.
yep. What do you look for? So I started, gotta run charity. What profile are you looking for? Because obviously not everybody can get in.
Right.
What are you looking for?
So we definitely want nonprofits. You have to be a 501c3 organization. We're looking for organizations that have a history of working or being involved with endurance sport fundraising, because you have to be able to support the running team that you're going to recruit. We want to make sure that we also look at what geographic region are they serving? Are they serving New York City? Are they a New York City-based organization that's serving a nation, the entire nation, or is it an international organization? So we look at the geographic region of service. We look at the type of organization, organizations that are sports-related, health and fitness-related, or just healthcare institutions. You know, obviously that's very much in line with what we do. So, you know, I'm not going to say they have a priority, but that's one of the areas that we do look at. But we have animal welfare groups, we'll have environmental groups, we have education groups. There's with 340 different charities.
I know. So you must have staff, because I can't imagine you tracking all this by yourself on a spreadsheet.
No, there's a whole team of us at New York Roadrunners that work in the development and the philanthropy team.
Well, obviously, you know, if I started the the Gotta Run Foundation, I should expect that it'll take a little bit of time, because first you got to have a track record, you have to do your due diligence. So what time frame does it take? Is it 3 months, 6 months, a year?
It depends on the organization. There are some organizations that, you know, if you have the staff and you have the experience, and you can jump in and lead a team and help recruit a team, because there's a lot of people who want to run the race. We have the charity program, races. We have the charity program, 2 of our races. So the TCS New York City Marathon, and then the United Airlines NYC Half also has a charity program.
Okay.
But there's lots of entries. Last year we had over 600 charities apply to be part of the marathon program. So there's a lot of folks there. So it's hard to say. There's no set time window.
Okay.
But you've got to be able to recruit and help support a team.
Well, you got to get your act together, which is great. All right. Now, is there anything that we haven't covered that you would like to cover?
I would just say, first and foremost, thanks for having me, and thanks for, you know, having the opportunity to, you know, talk a little bit about what we do at New York Roadrunners, because, you know, we are a community-based running organization, and, you know, being part of the community, and for me as a runner, it's really a great opportunity to go to work every day and help serve the running community, but also one of the things that we're looking to do is make sure that running is accessible to more people. So whether it's, you know, our open runs, which we, you know, have 7 locations now where there's free 5Ks that take place throughout the city every week.
That's something relatively new, right?
Yes, it is. It is. We launched it last year in June, and so this year on Global Running Day on June 1 will be our first anniversary.
Okay, so it's free. So that means there's no bling at the end, or no bagels or necessarily.
No, it's free, and it's a great opportunity for people to come out and run in your neighborhood. I remember last year when I ran at St. Mary's Park. It was great because you had young kids in there, you had adults who were there, parents came out, you can bring a dog, you can bring a stroller. And it's a very community-based feeling. And so what we'll do is every week the same group is there, and it's volunteer run. You'll get your time, and you'll be able to, you know, go back to the same park if you want. The St. Mary's run is now on a Saturday. You can go on Tuesday or Wednesday and run it yourself and work out for free in your neighborhood.
That's the beautiful thing about a vibrant organization, because you always got to revolve and change and improve, update, because times are changing. You guys are doing that. But I mentioned earlier on, or at the beginning, that I met you at the Streakers Convention. And a streaker is, I believe, anyone that's completed the New York City Marathon 15 times. It doesn't have to be consecutive, right? It has to be 15 times.
So we have streakers who are people who complete the TCS New York City Marathon in consecutive years. That's a streaker. But then we also have the 15 plus. One of the ways to have guaranteed entry into the TCS New York City Marathon is to complete 15 or more marathons.
Now, is that still valid?
It is.
Okay, because I know there were a lot of rule changes.
Right. No, it is still valid.
Excellent. When I was in that tent, I was blown away by the variety of people from all over the world.
Absolutely.
That come to this. Like, oh my goodness, you know.
I go to that event each year, and the crowd is growing.
I was very impressed. And in fact, I saw people that I see all the time. I didn't know you were a streaker. Many of them were very humble.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I was actually on the subway one day, and there's a guy who saw me there, and he remembered me from the event, and so we started to talk, and he's since come back, and he volunteers as well with New York Road Runners.
Well, listen, on that streaker note, thank you so much for coming in.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.